Welcome into Under the Bus, another edition where three old guys who've been under some buses, been on top of buses and driven buses, talk about sports. We're going to throw people under the bus. We're also going to talk about people driving the bus. I've got one in particular that I think should be driving the bus that we're all on for the next few months.
Okay.
We're going to talk about all of that as we go on through the next half hour or so, alongside Curry Kirkpatrick, Sports Illustrated Hall of Famer, Rich Basirico, basketball coaching Hall of Famer. I'm Bob Stevens. It's great to be here after the Final Four. You guys, aren't you glad you're waking up in your own bed the night after the Final Four and not, out in Phoenix trying to catch a plane?
Well, Rich and I were going to go to this thing. Yeah. In retrospect, I'm kind of glad we didn't go. It was too expensive to watch, UConn scrimmages. I mean, 2 or 3 scrimmages out there. I'm kind of glad.
23 points.
We'll go another year.
23 points a game they won on an average in the tournament. Nobody had ever done that.
No.
Not UCLA, not anybody.
140 points total. They won the thing last year, 120 points total. They had 140 this year, the differential.
Are they that good? Was everybody else that mediocre? Talk about it.
You're the coach.
They're very. I mean, their balance is so good. I mean, they have an inside game, outside game. Their depth. They're well coached. They're very, very good. Are they the best ever? I don't know if they're the best ever, but I mean, they're very, very good. I think in all the games they play, they're only behind one time by 5 points. One time
in this season,
in the tournament.
Did their defense in the title game, where they let Edie have his, completely took away the 3-point game.
That was
Why didn't anybody else do that?
I don't know, but
they're in the Big Ten.
Right.
There ought to be some smart guys.
Really?
Or did they just not have Purdue, everybody else not have the people to do that?
Purdue's they averaged 8 threes a game, making 8 threes a game.
Right.
They only shot 7.
Correct.
On Monday
That's
night.
because
the starting team only shot 4, a couple more.
Connecticut's
defense, they just ran them off the 3-point line, and Purdue refused to shoot threes because they couldn't shoot threes. Right. They just weren't open.
Right, exactly.
So they kept getting in. Let Edie get his 40. What he got?
37.
He could have gotten 50. They still would have lost.
Right. That's
I
right.
Thought
they still would have lost.
I thought the semifinal game was actually more interesting. Had them at 56, right? At 56, the game was tied with 56 about 10 minutes ago.
Right.
And Connecticut's offense, though, is its movement, its screens, cuts, it's so precise.
Yep.
And I got to give it to Hurley for this. I don't know. The word that I've read is that Luke Murray, his assistant, who's Bill Murray's son, the great actor, comedic actor, has installed this offense. He got it. He gave it to Hurley. He studies European teams apparently. Luke Murray watches all these films of teams all over the world, and they play kind of like a European team with all that movement and the cuts and stuff.
Right.
Hurley hired Luke Murray a long time ago at Wagner on Staten Island, and then he followed him. He was an assistant at Rhode Island. He then Murray went off and was assistant at Xavier and at Louisville, and then he's come back to Connecticut about 5 years ago, and since then, they just dominate with that offense.
Right.
I mean, Rich, running through all those screens and cuts and stuff, exhausts the team. Correct. I thought Alabama was exhausted with about 5 minutes to go, and the game was over.
Yeah, that's so true. Well, the offense, as you say, everybody's in motion, everybody. And the perimeter guys all can shoot it. So you can't focus on, we got to stop this one guy. All 4 of their perimeter people can hit the 3-pointer, can drive to the basket. Cam Spencer, I love the way he plays. He's hard-nosed and gets after it. Not as talented as the other guards.
On TV, he looks like he's about 6 feet. He's like 6'4".
Is he that
Cam
tall?
Spencer.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And the rookie, Stephon Castle, who I think is like the best player in the court most of the time. He's a great defensive player. He's 6'6". So these guys are so much taller and bigger than, especially the Purdue guards.
Right. But they just play so well together. Do you know what I mean? There's nobody who's selfish. They're willing to give up the ball. They look for the free shot. They make the extra pass for the guy that's
so that makes them better because nobody else does that.
Right? No one. I mean, a lot of teams, as we talked last week, was they put the ball in the best player's hand and say, okay, take over. They don't do that here. I mean, there's so much motion with their offense. It's wonderful. And then defensively, like what they did, let him have his points that he down low. Let him have it. We're going to defend the 3-point line. And obviously, they won by 15. This is a national championship game. They won by 15.
Well, what comes out of this?
It wasn't that close.
No.
I mean,
what comes out of this trend-wise? Because everybody's a copycat in basketball. What are we going to see then next year from everybody saying, okay, this is how?
Right. That's so true. Yeah,
Are they going to do that?
Yeah.
I mean, what do you see coming out of
Well,
this?
no, I
It's a
think
trend.
I think the trend is they're going to look at their offense and see what they do, and try to do the same. In terms
Hurley,
but you got to get the players. That's the
Yes.
other thing. You got to get the players that can do that.
Everybody's calling Danny Hurley the genius coach of all time, but he's got the best players, Rich. He had the
course.
best. Nobody talks
without a
about
doubt.
the best players in his tournament. He lost three from last. He lost 3 starters from last year. Put together a team, went out and got this kid Castle, who's a freshman. He got Spencer, your boy Spencer. Was at Rutgers, and before that he was at Loyola of Maryland. Nobody knew about this guy. They got him from the portal, and of course Klingon has turned into the best defensive center in the country.
Right.
And I think Castle was the best freshman in the country this year. I'm not going to be surprised if Castle's the first college player taken in the draft next month. I mean, I think he's that good. I mean, he's a 6'6" guy that guards everybody.
Yeah.
He stopped. He's guarded Sears in the semifinal game.
Yes.
And kind of contained him.
Right.
He's in the second half Monday night. He totally stopped Smith, who had a couple baskets early in the game. They put him on him, and he was gone for the game. That's where he's replaced players with players.
Yes. Well, that's the thing about the transfer portal now, right?
I was going to say, how many UConn guys are already in the portal? None? They're all gonna stay?
I think
go to the draft.
4 of them are going to go to the NBA.
Okay.
I mean, I think Klingon has gone to the draft. I think Castle's gone. Tristan Newton, who is the most valuable player of the Final Four for the second year in a row. I mean, he was an All-American point guard. I mean, they're all going to the draft. They're not going to the
well,
portal.
they've already started. He already said he's on the flight home. He's already working on his next roster.
Well, we lost our bell here, but okay, that's enough on the men. Let's talk about the real Final Four, the one that captured the imagination of the country. For the last 30 years, the Final Four the women's title game has drawn about 5 million viewers. Last year it had 10.
Okay.
This year it has almost 20. They're going to come up with the final numbers later today.
I thought there were some
Almost
points
20.
in the game when they did have 20.
Yeah, it was the most watched basketball game, period, in the last 5 years.
And it's a Sunday afternoon.
And it was Sunday,
Nobody
Sunday
watches.
afternoon.
Right.
Nobody watches women's basketball on Sunday afternoon.
I mean, it helped it because it was on ABC. If it was on one of the big networks, that helped. But yeah, if it had been Sunday night, it would have blown through that. Unbelievable.
Well, and of course the winner.
And of course
is the South Carolina Gamecocks. I have a pet peeve about that name. The Gamecocks. First of all, Gamecocks are male.
Yes.
Gamecocks are male. There's nothing feminine about a Gamecock.
Right.
I've always
At
thought
least they don't
should
call them lady
Well, they used to,
Gamecocks.
but they used to
I
call
know,
them
yeah,
lady
that's
Gamecocks,
true.
and that insulted the women apparently.
Right.
I don't know. I thought they should call them coquettes or something. Well, here's the problem. Here's the problem with the name.
Hens.
Here's the problem with the name. The Final Four
Fighting
weekends.
Hens. Delaware does that,
that's-
doggone it, and
that's
they get away
right.
with it. Yeah.
Well, the
That's
Final
right.
Four weekend, men's and women's, starts on Friday night, the semifinals. So ESPN has an alternate broadcast, like the Manning cast, with Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi.
Right.
Here's the problem with the name. So they come on right away, and Taurasi said, we have some great guests tonight, including we have Aaliyah Boston, who was Rookie of the Year in the WNBA, a great South Carolina player last year. She says, so we got the #1 cock in the building. I mean, she said that straight, and Sue Bird kind of looks at her. This is 2 minutes. Says, we got the #1 cock in the building. And Taurasi says it with a twinkle in her eye. She knows what she says. And Sue Bird gasped and goes, oh, okay, well, let's get on with it. She said, I guess, and Sue Bird actually said, I guess we're going to have a lot of cock talk this weekend. I mean, hello. I mean, the ESPN suits.
Yeah.
After they recovered from their heart attacks, they said, we got to that we got to get away from that phrase.
Nip it in the bud.
Yeah, exactly.
as,
But the Coquettes are just too strong, too deep,
Too
they
deep.
They
way
outscored
too
in the
deep.
final against Iowa and the great Caitlin Clark. Their bench
That's
outscored Iowa 37-0.
That's crazy.
I mean, really?
Think about that.
Yeah.
Did you
Here's
ever
the
have a team,
difference.
did you ever have a team outscore your starters first of all, and then where your bench outscored
Right.
your start? Usually when you get to the final of the finals,
Right.
your starters are playing 40 minutes. They're playing all of it. A deep bench doesn't usually matter. It's a short bench because everybody's just playing their starters anyway.
Yeah, but a team like
wow.
South Carolina, they're so strong. Their bench was so strong that she can go that deep and rest some of her starters. She had the confidence in her bench that she can rest her starters.
Well, she was
pick
down
them up.
11 in the first quarter.
Well,
Didn't bother her. She
Caitlin-
just brought the next 5
Right.
on.
to get back to Caitlin,
Yeah.
she had 18 in the first quarter. It
First
looked like
quarter.
She's going to get
It's just
70.
crazy. I know.
And Dawn Staley put in 2 freshmen in the second quarter. Remember Philaley or whatever her name is, who's like the fastest girl in basketball. I can't believe how fast. And a girl named Johnson who made 19
Right.
in the game.
That's right.
And,
As a freshman.
And they like spearheaded the whole thing.
Yeah.
She had Raven Johnson, the other Johnson. I guess she has several Johnsons, right? Guard and put a hand, or she was going all around the guy, putting a hand in Caitlin Clark's face, which looked to be pretty emphatic
Yes.
to me. I mean,
Well, they defended her. Yeah, you got to get your
She
hand
got
up.
exhausted.
Yeah, she did. She got tired.
She
you
ran
could
out of
tell.
gas.
She
Yeah.
definitely ran out
The
of
whole
gas.
team ran out of gas.
Yeah, and they cut it to 5.
Right.
With the ball.
Right.
With the ball, and they come down and get called for traveling, and then they took their shot
How about
selection.
that? I didn't realize that. So
It
that means
exists.
traveling?
Yeah, it does
I mean,
happen. They call it occasionally.
we
Yeah,
saw
when's the
it
last
called
time that was
twice.
called in the NBA, traveling?
I don't think it's been
Ever.
a long, long
Black and
history.
white. I've
Yeah.
seen some in black and white. But
And then they call it 3 seconds for one time, which you never see. You never see. But
How about
I
that?
mean, their shot selection was poor down the stretch.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some shots they took, and they tried to challenge inside, wasn't there, and then they turned the ball over.
Well, South Carolina is also playing with Cardozo, who's 6'7".
Right.
With those tresses, those burgundy tresses. If she put those up, she got a headband, or she'd be 7'2".
we're just jealous.
And she just
We are jealous.
dominated the inside. But all she made was layups.
Right.
Because she's so much bigger and stronger.
Exactly.
She's from, she leads women's basketball though in hair and makeup and
And the
nails
and the eyelashes.
and the eyelashes. Well, she's from a little town in, she's Brazilian.
Oh, I
She's
didn't
from,
know
Cardozo's from Brazil. She's from a town called Montes Claros, which in Portuguese means dangerous eyelashes. But she,
Something you will not learn anywhere else but right here.
well,
Just
and to
eyelashes.
speak, I got the good fortune. The last time a Brazilian basketball player made such impact was a men's player who I got to cover in Brazil. And you probably remember when you were a little boy. His name was Oscar Daniel Brazina Schmidt.
Oscar
Went
Schmidt.
by one name,
Yeah,
but he went by one name, Oscar. And he was terrific. He's probably still the greatest player never to play in the NBA. He played, Rich and Bob, he played till he was 45 years old. I luckily got 2 trips to Brazil to cover this guy.
Wow.
And he beat our team in the Pan American Games one year.
Yeah.
Our team had Danny Manning and a few other great NBA players. David Robinson.
Wow.
Oscar went for 46. I mean that's good.
So how come he didn't play in the NBA?
Well, because he was making too much money in these pro leagues, and at that time he wanted to play in Olympics. He played in 5 Olympic Games and 5 World Games over 20 years. He's still the leading scorer in both those competitions, all-time history. And that's how good this guy was. And, take this LeBron. Oscar Schmidt played till he was 45 years old. And in his last season at Flamenco in Brazil, he played with his son.
Oh, did he
So,
really?
yeah,
Oh,
clear the
that's
Sunday
cool.
So if we can get LeBron to 45 years
Well-
old, maybe his son will be good enough to play in the
But
NBA,
his
and they can
son
play
is
together.
declared for the NBA. Who's going to draft him?
Somebody who wants LeBron, right?
Well, the Lakers are going to draft him. That's who's going to draft him, and we all know that. And everybody in the NBA knows Bronny is not ready for the NBA. But they're going to let this happen. The Lakers are going to draft him, I'm sure, to keep LeBron. But to get back to the women,
Yeah.
Rich, let's talk about the semifinals, the Connecticut game against Iowa,
Yes.
and the call at the end of the game. I'd like your impressions.
Well,
if you set it up.
Okay.
Connecticut's got the ball, down
Right.
1, 10 seconds
10
left.
seconds ago.
Geno's got the
and they're
play.
sending a screen for Paige, and
Beckers.
and she doesn't get set. She is moving when she sets the screen. She even kind of sticks her leg out a little bit, even with her arms, type of thing. When you look at it right away, it's like, whoa, come on, don't
that's
make
Edwards.
that call.
That's
Don't
the
make
center
that call.
is Edwards
Right.
for Connecticut.
But don't make
She's
that call.
huge. Well, as a fan, we're all watching it and we go, oh, no,
Right.
don't make
Correct.
the call, let them play it out, let them play
Right.
it. Let the players decide, that's
Right.
all. Well, the players did decide it because Edwards stuck her knee out
Right.
and she put her elbow up and got my
Sure.
girl Marshall.
Yeah, it was a foul.
In the face.
Well, any way you look at it, it was a foul.
It was an egregious
And I
foul.
know people, the analysts afterwards said they shouldn't call it at the end of the game like that. And we've always said, officials say, well, we're not going to make the call down the stretch. Let the players decide. But you are letting them decide.
decide.
You are letting them decide. It was the right call. But here's the interesting thing. If Paige would have received that pass, she was going to be on the sideline. What was she going to do with the ball? I mean, they came into the screen at the elbow. She's coming off the screen. Okay, let's forget about the offense. Let's say they don't make that call.
Geno, you're going under the bus.
She gets the ball
on the side,
on the sideline,
like 25 feet away.
Now it's like how many? 8 seconds to go.
No, there's 3 seconds when she shot it. There was
No,
3 seconds.
I don't mean when she shot it. I'm talking about when she would
made
have
the-
received the ball before the foul was called. She would have gotten the ball on the sideline with 8 seconds to go per se. What was she? I mean, obviously it's
Well,
something.
the call was
designed.
made at 3 seconds, 3.9 seconds or something like that. That's what time the call was made.
Okay.
So, but Beckers, as you say, it was going to be a really tough shot. Plus, the Iowa center was out there to contest it. So, you're right. I don't think Becker's going to make that shot anyway.
No, she was going to have to put it on the floor and penetrate to the basket, maybe.
But, Rich, about the call, Geno said afterward, you could call an illegal screen almost every possession in women's basketball. It's almost like in pro football
Holding,
offensive holding
Right,
on the
you
line.
call every
but,
play.
But if it's significant to the play, you should call it.
Yes.
And this was significant to the play.
Well,
But
she still was
and
going to
that's
get the
why.
ball. She still was going to get the ball. I mean, she was still open. I don't necessarily think it changed the play per se. She still would have got it. But I didn't know why they were getting the ball where she was going to receive
I
it.
thought
didn't
Gabby was going to
understand
get
that.
to her to defend as well. Gabby Marshall,
Yeah.
who, by the way, if Hollywood was scouting this game, forget Caitlin Clark. My girl Gabby Marshall is a smoke show. I mean, her eyes, she has the most beautiful eyes in TV since Jennifer Aniston. I mean, I don't want to be sexist about this thing, but
Were you watching the game?
I was
or her
watching
eyes?
Gabby Marshall's eyes.
All right.
We found the truth.
But under the are we
You
going to
get somebody under the bus
Yeah,
for this?
well, I have the coverage, ESPN's coverage. First of all, they have Rebecca Lobo doing the sideline game. Okay, that's fine. But in the regionals, she's covering the Albany regional, and at one point she says, "I'd like to, if you can find anything to do in Albany,
Albany.
set off the city." I mean, if a
Right.
man did that, come on, he'd be fired.
Yeah.
He'd be out of there. Yeah. And then at the end, they had after they win. Dawn Staley is down there sobbing and weeping about Jesus and all this stuff and right behind her is Boston, her former Claire Flash, who's working from ESPN. But she's down there in the scrum,
Right.
grabbing players, crying with Staley, grabbing stuff. I mean, come on, let's have some professionalism.
It was exactly what I thought was going to happen if Carolina was in the Final Four.
No, but if you, it's like
he'd be down in that scrum. Wouldn't
no,
he?
but if it's it's like if ESPN ever got the men's tournament,
Right.
and Duke ever won this thing again, which will never happen. It was like Jay Billis going down and grabbing all the Duke players. It's just like it was.
Right, yeah, okay.
Let's show some professionalism.
Yes,
Okay.
let's do.
Thank you.
I got that. Let me give you a professional number and a name to go out of this segment, and then we'll have a maybe less professional name to talk about. Dawn Staley should be driving the bus for anybody. She could have her pick of coaching jobs. In fact, the Kentucky men ought to be going after her. We'll talk about that in a minute. They've lost 3 games in the last 3 years. The second winningest team program in the last 3 years has lost 12. They've lost 3 in 3 years.
Well, let me tell you something about
that's some good
Dawn.
work.
Since we're going to finish with Dawn.
Yeah.
She says some things that the conservative University of South Carolina is not always happy with.
Oh,
among which,
absolutely.
among
She
which,
does,
they asked her, the other night. She thinks transgender athletes should be allowed to play women's sports, which is fine. She also kind of injects sex into all this stuff. Remember, she asked the media a couple nights before, she said, listen, she said, we always have this debate among our coaches, is it lying down or laying down? And the media said, well, no, it's lying, it's not laying. She said, well, that's funny, because I always had somebody tell me, you have to lie to get laid. She actually said this in a press conference. She broke up the media. I mean, Dawn Staley, yes.
But in the end,
What?
when it really mattered on Sunday, with the whole nation watching, the huge numbers watching, she said, Caitlin Clark has elevated the game, and I thank her for being here and for being a
goat and being a goat.
She did, and for being the goat.
Which is terrific.
She did the right thing.
Yeah, she did that.
Yeah.
I give her credit for that.
All right. Kentucky ought to be talking to her. Instead, they're talking to other people because Coach Cal is leaving. That's next. We're going to throw, I don't think we have enough buses to throw all the people under them that we're going to do right next. Stay with us. Welcome back to Under the Bus. Bob Stevens, along with Curry Kirkpatrick and Rich Basirico. If you want our backgrounds, that's what Google's for. Let's talk
We have
now
no backgrounds.
about really the biggest story probably last night even in the final game. Coach Cal, and we speculated that here, didn't we, a few weeks ago, that he might leave Kentucky.
Well, I thought it was
Calipari going to Arkansas.
Yeah, and this comes out on the day of the championship game. This is a real stunt to get Calipari back. I mean, you know who used to do this all the time is Digger Phelps when he was at Notre Dame. The Monday of the championship, he'd always come out with some scandal on some other team just to get attention. And for Calipari to do this on the day of the championship game, I thought his timing was terrific as usual. But I was surprised. I was stunned that he left, and that he left for the place he did.
Right.
But, you know, as everybody was saying, Kentucky and Cal were on the path to do this. I think he was ahead of the posse. They wanted a divorce. They just couldn't get divorced, and Arkansas saved everybody.
Right.
Saved both of them by coming in and offering this tremendous deal to Calipari, which, as I understand, he's guaranteed $5 million in NIL money from the Tyson Foods people, who he's a big buddy of one of the Tyson people. But Rich, so is it all about money? I mean, Calipari doesn't need money.
No,
so.
but see, he saw the writing on the wall. I mean, the Kentucky fans wanted him out. He saw the writing on the wall, and coaches don't want to be fired. Our ego's too big. We don't want to be fired. No one wants to be fired, because then you think, well, am I going to get another job? And guys do, but some don't. And think about it. Andy Edfield went from USC to SMU. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because I think he sees the writing on the wall.
For sure.
Shaka Smart went from Texas to Marquette.
Yeah, that was a couple years ago.
Right, but he saw the writing on the wall.
Yeah. He couldn't win at
Steve
Texas
Lapis
big enough.
years ago went from Villanova to UMass before they get fired. So they see the writing on the wall. So Calipari knows they all want him out. I have an opportunity to go and start all over again. I have a 5-year contract. Going to make good money. I think he's going to make about $7 million a year, I guess. Something like that.
Good
He's
money.
going to find out that the folks in Arkansas are almost as rabid as the folks in Kentucky.
Absolutely.
They're going to. I mean, they almost ran off Nolan Richardson after he won the national title for them. I mean, that should have been golden forever.
Well, you brought up
Frank
Enfield.
Broyles is the only guy who's never been run off at Arkansas, and that's because he decided to run the place instead.
Well, Calipari is going to have to learn how to call the Hogs, which is kind of funny when you think of it. But you brought up Enfield. That's what sort of this thing started. The chairs started falling.
Sure.
Because when Enfield left, that went Musselman left Arkansas to go to SC.
Right.
That's what allowed this job to come open, and maybe that's why it was only in the last week this happened, because that's when Musselman left Arkansas.
Right.
Calipari win at Arkansas?
Well, he's a great recruiter. He's a terrific recruiter. I just don't think he's a good X and O guy. And I think the Arkansas people, do they not see that?
Rich, if
Nolan wasn't the greatest X and O guy
that's
either.
true.
If he can get all these
Players.
and he claims now he's going to change his strategy and go in the portal and get some older people with all these one and done freshmen that he's going to have coming in. I mean, he might take his whole freshman class that was going to Kentucky now to Arkansas.
That's the thing. Yeah, you
Right.
can do that,
That
now.
can happen.
That's
That
easy
can
enough
happen.
to do.
I mean,
Sure.
Kentucky had a great kid in the McDonald's All-Star game last week named Boogie Flan. He's got a great name. He was a guard. He's terrific, and he's the successor to Dillingham and Shepard and all these guys that are going to leave Kentucky and go to the NBA. But he's going to win it at Arkansas.
He'll
the
win.
question is now, who
goes
gets
to
the Kentucky
Kentucky?
job?
Yeah.
Have they approached you about the job? Because apparently they're doing a national
I
national
couldn't
search.
even work on their maintenance staff.
Have they approached you, Curry, about what names you would think you would interject?
Well, everybody says the same thing, but I've got to make a call. I'd call Jay Wright, make him say no. I mean, that's the first guy. He's going to say no.
Right.
Billy Donovan, of the
Billy
Bulls.
Donovan,
He used to be in Kentucky.
Right.
He's going to say no.
But he's with the Bulls, and they haven't done very well the last 3 or 4
Yeah,
years.
but they're
whole
still going to
group
be playing
get
the next.
fired.
He's still going to be playing a few games. They want a guy now because of the portal.
Right.
I mean,
Well,
Kentucky's
true.
got to get a guy
But
in the next.
The
few
guy
days.
that I don't think, they keep on saying Oates from Alabama. I just don't think that's a good fit for Kentucky. I really don't. One guy who's a Kentucky former player is Mark Pope at BYU.
BYU. Yeah.
He's a possibility. You know who I would love to see go there?
Patino.
Well, he's not going. Richard. His wife wouldn't
His
let him
son.
go. Brad Stevens.
No way. No way. He's too
I
long.
understand that,
too
but
long
I
and
think he'd be a great fit there.
Well,
I
he
really
would be,
do.
but
But
everybody
he's
talks
old school
about.
now, isn't
Everybody
he?
talks
I mean,
about.
kind of too much.
Yeah, he's
for what today's
True.
basketball coaches.
Everybody talks about fit, and they're even talking about Bruce Pearl now. I don't
Well, I
see
don't think
Pearl
Pearl- no.
there at all with his brashness, but I can see Oates going. I really can. I mean,
What?
you say
Wait a
fit.
minute.
I think a guy like that will fit anywhere.
Brashness is a problem at Kentucky.
Well,
They love brashness.
I'm not sure.
How about Scott Drew from Baylor?
Well, that's who.
I would like. I think now
who
I
I
don't know if
text-
he's a
I
great
text
fit.
you
He
guys
loves
right away.
Baylor. He loves Baylor where he
That's-
is. His family loves it there.
He's in a
but-
great place, making a ton of money,
Right.
and he's even, if coaches fear getting fired, he's even got a pretty clean slate for
Yeah,
a while.
sure he
It would
does.
be he would have to do something bad
For several
not
years.
just
Several
lose,
years.
but
Yeah.
be a bad
Yeah,
person.
he
to
built
get
that
fired.
Baylor
He's not
Well, do
a
you
bad
think
person.
Oates would go there? You think he would leave Alabama to go to
In
Kentucky?
a second.
Would he?
Rich, Bob,
Alabama's
it's
a really nice
Kentucky,
place to
it's
be.
Kentucky
I know, it's-
basketball.
it's-
It's Kentucky basketball. He's at Alabama. He's always going to be second fiddle to
Behind
football.
the football,
At
right.
Kentucky, he's going to be number one guy, and that's what Kentucky brings to the table. They're the number one sport at their school, beside being among the 3 or 4
Right.
blue bloods there are. They even asked Hurley the other night at his press conference
About
afterward
Kentucky
about
job.
Kentucky job. Yeah,
would
he laughed and joked around. He said, "Ask my wife about that. She'll give you the answer." Which. I don't know.
Smart
Moving
play.
from Stores, Connecticut. Which, by the way,
Yes.
that's the other thing about Albany. When Rebecca Lobo Rebecca Lobo trashed Albany.
Right.
Here's a woman that played in Stores in her professional careers in Bristol,
Yeah.
and she's trashing Albany. Come on, I'm sorry to get back to that. But,
Danny wouldn't fit in Kentucky. He just wouldn't.
well,
did you hear his son
did you
speak
think
after the game?
Did you think Patino would fit at Kentucky? Did you think Calipari?
Yeah.
Northeastern, brash, New
That's
York
true.
type
That's
guys.
true. That's true. I just don't think he would leave Connecticut. Why would you leave Connecticut?
No, he's not going to.
No, yeah, I know.
But these talk about fit. Anybody fit there if they win.
But Oates,
as
That's
I
right.
said,
There you go.
Did you
win.
I mean,
Well, as I
Oates'
said last week,
team, I just don't. I mean, he lets just
wait
let
a
him
minute.
go.
Yeah, but Kentucky fans love that.
I know,
That's what
I
Calipari
know,
did this
I
year.
know, I
Calipari
know.
did that this year, and they loved it.
They loved it, but
Until
they didn't get
lost.
past the first round.
Until they lost.
Exactly.
Well, okay.
He's going to win enough. Calipari will win enough at Arkansas, but the
To
problem
get
is
you to the second round.
correct to the second round.
Well,
is that what you want?
Yeah.
For a couple of years, Arkansas will take that, and that they're going to want more.
Of course,
and he's got to
of
be
course.
able to produce that, which he has, although he also has not. Give me a wild card name. Come on, let's
Well,
let's
Pope is
dream
kind
a
of a
little.
wild
That's
card.
a wild-
You brought
Pope is
that up, but
probably
he's a
a
very,
wild
very.
card.
But he
Way
was
too clean, isn't he? If he's at BYU.
well. He played on their championship teams.
Yes,
Pope,
he did
Mark
at
Pope.
Kentucky. Sure did. Yeah.
But this is the first year he's gotten anywhere with BYU. Was this year? They haven't made the tournament the last few years. I don't know if that
Come on,
matters.
give me a Mark Few. Give me a Billy Self. Give me something way out there. Come on.
Richard Pitino.
I'll go back to that.
I don't know if they would consider that or not, but that's a wild card.
Eat
That's a
your heart-
wild
eat your
card.
heart out. If you had one, and just Give me one name you think's going to be the guy. Kentucky. I'll give you one name. My name is Oates. Just give me one. Forget.
No,
all
I
this
think
rest.
I think you're right. I think you're right.
I don't know.
And Scott Drew, I think, would be the better pick. That would be my pick, but I don't know if that's the right. Like you say, everything's the right fit there, but he's
also very religious, Scott Drew, and he's playing at Baylor, what is it, Methodist school, and he's built that program back, and he's Mr. Clean,
Yes.
which a lot of Kentucky coaches have not been.
No.
So I think that's. Not,
I would give you.
that's
I'll
not
give you
a
somebody, the coach at Seton Hall.
Oh, that beat Patino, that beat
The one they NIT
that beat
this year.
Calipari. When they beat Calipari 2 years ago, when
Right.
he was at St. Peter's.
St. Peter's. He went to St. Peter's. They had a great run.
Yeah.
Went to Seton Hall.
Shaheen Holloway is
Right.
his name.
He was a great player himself at
Yes, he
Seton
was.
Hall. And he had to this year. They should have made the NCAA players. Did not.
Yeah.
But they ended up winning the NIT. He's done a great job. He really has. That's. I don't think he's being considered.
No.
But I think if there's a long shot.
No.
That's my long
They're
shot.
not taking somebody from Seton Hall. They got to have somebody from a blue blood, almost there to do that. In fact, Brigham Young may not be quite blue enough.
That's true.
For
That's
Kentucky, even though the guy's an alum. All right, we've exhausted this one. We got some other stuff going on that we need to get into, including the Masters. Can we throw anybody under the bus at the Masters? We probably can, but we'll never be invited back. We'll be back to talk about that in a moment. We welcome you back to Under the Bus alongside Rich Basirico, a Hall of Famer and a Hall of Famer.
And a Hall of Famer too. You're a Hall of Famer.
You didn't point out.
Yeah, we
Hall
did
of Famer.
brackets a couple of weeks ago.
Now
and
mention
you won.
mention
We
what
need to
this is
mention
for.
it.
This is from a pool,
That is the gold medal from our pool. You were the winner, even though
which we had about 40 people in it, right? Or maybe no, 4.
4.
Well, that was cool.
And none of us had a team in the Final Four.
Oh, we had Connecticut.
No, we all had Connecticut.
You all but you all had
Connecticut.
them losing in the semis. You never.
But
we didn't have
all had-
anybody last time.
You had Auburn,
Yeah.
which is your boy Bruce Pro.
I had Connecticut
We
winning.
both of us had Creighton playing
Connecticut.
for the
We had
Creighton and
Connecticut
Connecticut in the
Right.
title game. All right.
Yeah, okay.
All right. So at least you got Connecticut to the
So now
title
we go
game.
to the Masters pool.
Yes.
right?
Now we go to the Masters pool. I'm going to get that back.
Okay.
So that's what we got to do here.
Well, the one at the Masters is going to be green, I think. So.
It should be. It's setting up to be. They're talking about a lot of rain over the weekend.
Seriously?
But
well, there goes Tiger.
But Tiger's there.
Well, who are the Mutters
And-
then? Who are the
and-
Mutters?
Well,
Not Tiger.
last year was delayed some. They've had delays like 5 of the last 8 years or whatever.
Wow.
It's not been necessarily great weather. John Rahm's got the jacket. He gets the tab for the dinner tonight, the Tuesday Champions dinner.
And we had tacos, man. Something
Oh, we talked about the menu.
empanadas, whatever those called.
Well,
Spanish.
empanadas.
Something Spanish.
Yeah, it's a lot Spanish and it sounds really good, but it's all seriously
Okay, I like
Spanish.
Rahm to repeat.
Do you?
Well, he's live golf. The big thing now is
Yeah.
live versus PGA.
Right.
Not many live players in this field, right?
No.
Because they're not in the top 50.
If you're not in the top 50, you've got to have been basically a past champion
Yeah.
Yes.
or have won a major
Dustin Johnson
recently.
and Rahm,
Right.
both live guys.
Right.
Okay. If they're in the final pairing on a Sunday, CBS going to have a hard time. But anyways, you like Scheffler. Scheffler's the number 1 player in the world, right?
I mean, it's hard. I mean, he won the year before. He's just really good.
He's so consistent.
The problem, you need to be a pretty good putter at the Masters. Although Scheffler, not the best
He's not
putter,
on the green.
has still managed to win there. So I don't know. I think
Scheffler tee to green for the last 2 or 3 years,
Oh,
the absolute best.
absolutely.
And Bob, I don't know anything about golf swings, but his swing is weird, right?
Yeah.
It's not a classic
No.
swing.
Most of them are
Scotty
weird.
Scheffler, he's doing all this stuff like going in here.
In fact, I'm trying to think of a normal. Xander Schauffele probably among the top 5 has the purest swing, but he still hadn't. We still keep waiting for him to do it.
I think it's due for him.
It
I
might
do.
be. I mean that.
So you're picking Schauffele,
Yes, sir.
and I'm picking Rahm.
Yeah, and I'll
Who's
take
your pick?
Scheffler.
Scheffler, right.
I think we'd all love to see Rory finally get it done, But I think Rory's in his own head so much that it's going to be hard.
Well,
even
the
though
thing-
he played
the thing
really
came
well
out-
even last week.
The thing came out this week that Roy, his little daughter, asked him where he was going. He said, "I'm going to take a golf lesson." And his little daughter said, "We already know how to play golf." And Rory said, "It's stuck in my head." And so he's getting the Masters late, by the way.
Yeah,
He's only
okay.
come in today or something.
Right.
And so maybe he's not
It'd
in
be
his head
smart for
anymore.
him to not come in until tomorrow.
Yeah.
But bring the family, let him do the par 3,
Yeah.
but not even, he knows the course. He doesn't need to do it for that. Does Tiger make the cut? Maybe that should be the big bet.
I would
an
love to
answer.
see it, but I don't
Everybody
think
loves to see it.
I
I got
don't
an
think
answer though. No.
No.
Well, especially if it's not warm, and you're talking about his back already, his knee.
That's
his-
and Augusta,
and
you
the
all,
hills,
Augusta's a hard walk. I tell people, again, this is based in Hilton Head. Tiger ought to play here because it's a flat walk.
But because it's too narrow for him.
It's too narrow. But he's a different player now. He should
All
be
the
playing here.
pre-masters attention
But anyway.
is already on Tiger.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, ESPN
Yeah.
had shown him at 6 in the morning out there with
Because
his sweaters on and playing
It still
and
moves the
practicing.
needle. It is
He
unbelievable.
does.
I think,
does.
I think his days are over.
He's like
I really
he's.
do. I like to
he's-
see him do well.
Tiger's like the Caitlin Clark of golf. I mean,
No, except she can play. Wait a minute.
Well, you talk
have
about-
just you have just
Well, I know, I
really
wanted-
disparaged.
well, I wanted to
there
get
needs
it
to be an
around.
apology there.
No,
and it's
I
not
wanted to get
anything
it
male or
around.
female.
I wanted to get it
Caitlin
around.
Clark is good.
well, she
She's
moves the
maybe
needle.
the best. Is she the GOAT, by the way?
Well, that's
we
a,
didn't
that's
even
a
follow
discussion. Some people were saying that she had to win. She's finished with her
Why
college
do
career.
people
She had to
say
win
that?
a
That's-
championship.
That's not true.
Well, see, that's all Tiger's ever
Yeah.
done is win, and and a lot of people think he's the GOAT. I don't, but a lot of people do. But he, anyway.
I think it's silly when they say she
He's
has
not
to
Caitlin
win
Clark, no.
to
Well, the argument
she's not
is
it's just not an individual game.
No,
this is
it's not.
5-on-5. I mean, she has to
The
have
argument
10 on
is-
5 in
yeah.
the case of South Carolina.
Okay.
The argument is to cement your legacy, you have to win a championship. But look, go to the sports. Dan Marino in football never won a title.
Pistol
Ernie
Pete.
Banks
Yep.
in baseball.
Never. Pistol
Even
Pete.
in the NBA.
Pistol
In the
Pete.
NBA, Charles Barkley.
Right.
Stockton, Malone, the pair.
Correct.
In fact, Stockton and Malone get more attention for not winning now because everybody brings their name up. Well, they never won a title. And Barkley is living out on the fact he never won a
If
title.
winning titles matters, Robert Ory's the greatest player in history, right? He can hold
He
you a
has
whole handful of
seven
rings.
or something. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
No, I don't think it's good art. But Brianna Stewart, who's a great player
Right.
at Connecticut, won
Four.
won 4 MVPs.
Yes.
But she brought up the other day, well, Caitlin might have to win a title. And all these, and even on the podcast with Sue Bird, they were talking about, well, she's going to be a pro now. It's going to be different. They're already kind of diminishing her.
Well, she got so much
career.
hype, and all these other players
much.
are sitting there
Yeah.
going,
Yeah.
too much.
Well,
She
I don't
got
think she got too much. I mean, she brought this game to such a level.
No, but people
nobody in
think
history
she
has
got
ever
too
done
much.
this.
Right.
But I think
Not Geno, not Pat Summitt,
No.
not Cheryl Miller. Nobody brought this game to the heights that
that's
this
true.
girl has done.
That's true.
And
But we all watched.
I was kind
We
of
all watched. Look at that right there.
I was kind of sad watching it, her kind of going out
Yeah.
a loser. But you just thought about her accomplishment this year, what she did, what she brought the attention
And
to
she
the sport.
and they got there. See,
And
that's people forget that they got there.
Yeah.
It's not like she
and that,
got
to me,
beat in the first
getting
round.
there. Yeah, getting there is
Yeah,
most of
yeah.
it.
They got beat by a better
Got beat
team.
by a better team. And it was they got beat by a better team. She didn't get beat
That's
by a
right.
better team. It was a they thing.
Well,
Right.
and Tiger is going to get beat by better players, better players this week.
One
But
at
we
a time.
can't- But we can't diminish Tiger. even
we
though you
can't.
got- I agree
Absolutely
with
not.
you. I think Nicklaus is the greatest ever.
I-
But you go back to at their peak, at their
Yeah.
best day,
Yeah.
Nicklaus Tiger head-to-head. Who wins? I think Nicklaus wins. I mean,
Are they playing then or are they playing now?
no, they're playing at their peak.
Okay, if
of
they're
their,
playing,
of
but
their
at their
careers,
peak,
at their career.
I mean, Tiger's still blowing it by him 40 yards, and Jack. I mean, Tiger might beat him head to head, but that's not. Again, that's not
argument.
the point.
That's not the-
That's
yeah,
the argument.
yeah.
But it's the point is, I think Jack beat better players during
Tiger.
his time
Yeah.
than Tiger has beaten.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
For
not
sure.
Tiger's fault. That's not Jack's. You don't make Jack better because of it. But that's
And Tiger's never really had the great rivalry that Jack had with
I mean-
with Arnold Palmer
Arnold,
and
yeah.
Player, and then later in his
And then
career.
Trevino and
Yeah,
Watson,
Trevino,
and then I mean
Watson.
there were a whole lot of the top
Correct.
10 Jack had to beat.
Yeah.
Tiger had to beat Phil, and he had to beat Phil.
And then Phil kind of passed from the scene. I
Yeah.
mean, you know.
Phil will be there this weekend. He finished second last year.
That's because he was gambling too much.
Watch out. Okay.
Here we go. Here we go.
That's
Place-
enough for us.
placing his
Well,
bet.
Speaking of I mean, the gambler calling the gamblers too much. Come on,
Huh?
you're the big time gambler.
No,
at this table.
I go to Vegas once a year. You
Except,
kidding me?
except, but look who won that.
Look who won
that.
that. All right. Yeah.
Hey, if you bet on Connecticut, you would have won every time. They covered every
Every
game.
game.
And they covered every game.
They're 12-0.
That's
How about that?
2 years covered, right?
That's pretty darn good.
Yeah.
we will give them their due. And next week we'll be back to talk about the winners and losers and other folks who deserve to go under the bus. For Rich and Curry, I'm Bob Stevens. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.